The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as I pressed my ear against the locked bedroom door, listening to Marcus's laughter echo through the penthouse apartment. 3 days. He'd kept me locked in here for 3 days, and my fingers were raw from clawing at the doorframe, desperate for any weakness in the solid oak that imprisoned me. "Please, Marcus," I whispered through the crack under the door, my voice hoarse from crying. "The wedding is tomorrow. Your mother will notice if I'm not at the rehearsal dinner." His footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate on the marble floor. I scrambled backward, my bare feet slipping on the cold hardwood as the lock clicked. The door opened just enough for him to slide in, his perfectly pressed suit a mockery of the civilized man he pretended to be in public. "My mother thinks you have food poisoning," he said, straightening his platinum cufflinks. Amazing what people will believe when you're from the right family. His gray eyes, once the color of peaceful storms that made me feel safe, now reminded me of concrete walls closing in. "You brought this on yourself, Sarah. If you hadn't tried to run, I wasn't running," I lied. Though we both knew about the suitcase I'd hidden in my car trunk, the cash I'd been saving for months, the apartment in another city I'd secretly rented. "I was just going to visit my sister." His hand shot out, fingers wrapping around my wrist with practiced precision, tight enough to hurt, not quite enough to bruise where it would show. Marcus had become an expert at invisible violence over our 2-year engagement. "Your sister who conveniently lives 800 miles away?" He pulled me closer, his cologne. Tom Ford, always Tom Ford, making my stomach turn. "You think I'm stupid? You think the son of Senator Whitmore doesn't have eyes everywhere?" The irony wasn't lost on me. Everyone envied me. Sarah Chen, the nobody waitress who'd caught the attention of Marcus Whitmore at a charity gala where I'd been serving champagne. Cinderella story, they called it. If only they knew the palace was a prison and the prince was my jailer. He released my wrist, smoothing his hands down his jacket. "Get dressed. We have a situation." "What situation?" I rubbed my wrist, feeling the blood flow return to my fingers. "Business meeting. Here, in an hour." He walked to my closet, my former closet, since he now controlled what I wore, and pulled out a black cocktail dress. "You'll serve drinks, smile, and remember that your sister's safety depends on your cooperation." My blood froze. "What did you do to Emma?" "Nothing. Yet." He tossed the dress on the bed. "But her new boyfriend, the one she met at that coffee shop, he works for me." Funny how love finds a way, isn't it? I wanted to scream, to launch myself at him, to rake my nails down his perfectly moisturized face. But Emma was all I had left after our parents died, and Marcus knew exactly which pressure points to push. "I need a shower," I said quietly. 10 minutes. "And Sarah?" He paused at the door. "Try anything stupid, and Emma's boyfriend might have to show her what happens when people disappoint me." The lock clicked behind him, and I collapsed on the bed, my body shaking with suppressed sobs. Tomorrow, I was supposed to marry this monster in front of 300 guests at the Whitmore estate. Tonight, I had to play hostess to whatever criminal associates Marcus was really involved with. Because despite his family's political connections, I'd learned too late that his real business happened in shadows. The shower water scalded my skin, but I didn't adjust the temperature. Physical pain was easier to bear than the suffocating reality of my situation. I scrubbed until my skin was pink, washed my long black hair twice, and tried not to think about how this was supposed to be my life, serving drinks to dangerous men while pretending my engagement was a fairy tale. The dress fit perfectly, of course. Marcus had my measurements memorized, controlled every calorie I ate, every gym session I attended. I applied makeup with trembling hands, covering the dark circles under my eyes, adding color to my pale cheeks. In the mirror, I looked like what I was supposed to be. A beautiful possession, a trophy to display. Voices drifted up from the living room below. Male voices, deep and commanding. I counted at least 4 different speakers, maybe 5. My hand shook as I fastened the diamond necklace Marcus insisted I wear. Another chain disguised as luxury. The door unlocked again. Marcus's assistant, a cold woman named Janet, who'd worked for the family for decades, stood in the hallway. "Time to go, dear," she said, though her tone held no warmth. She'd never liked me, probably saw me for what I was, a gold digger who'd gotten more than she bargained for. The marble staircase seemed to stretch forever as I descended, each step taking me closer to another performance. The living room came into view, all glass and steel and modern art that cost more than most people's houses. Marcus stood by the bar, his posture relaxed as he spoke with several men in expensive suits. But it was the man by the window who made me stop mid-step. He stood apart from the others, his back to the room as he gazed out at the city lights. Even from behind, everything about him radiated power. Not the inherited kind that Marcus wielded, but something rawer, more dangerous. His suit was black, impeccably tailored to his tall, lean frame. Dark hair, almost black, was swept back from his face. While the other men clustered around Marcus like satellites, this one stood alone, as if the very air around him created a barrier others dared not cross. "Ah, there she is," Marcus called out, his voice carrying that false warmth he used in public. "Gentlemen, my fiancée, Sarah." I forced myself to continue down the stairs, my heel catching slightly on the carpet. It was a tiny stumble, barely noticeable, but the man at the window turned at the sound. My breath caught in my throat. He couldn't have been more than 30, with the kind of face that belonged in Renaissance paintings, all sharp angles and dark intensity. His eyes were brown, so dark they appeared black in the dim lighting, and they fixed on me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. A thin scar ran through his left eyebrow, the only imperfection in an otherwise devastating face. But it wasn't his beauty that made my pulse race. It was the way he looked at me, not with the casual appreciation I was used to from Marcus's associates, but with something deeper, more dangerous. Recognition flickered in those dark eyes. Though I was certain we'd never met, I would have remembered him. "Sarah, come here," Marcus commanded, his tone carrying an edge of irritation. I tore my gaze away from the stranger and walked to Marcus's side, letting him slip his arm around my waist in a grip that looked affectionate but felt like a shackle. "This is Vincent Romano," Marcus said, gesturing to an older man with silver hair. "And his associates, Mr. Petrov and Mr. Tanaka." He paused, his grip tightening. "And our special guest, Mr. Salvatore." The dark-eyed man, Salvatore, moved away from the window with fluid grace. Up close, he was even more intimidating. He towered over Marcus's 5'10" frame, and the way the other men subtly shifted away from him told me everything I needed to know about the hierarchy in this room. "Miss Chen," he said, and his voice was like aged whiskey, smooth, dark, with a burn underneath. A slight accent colored his words. Italian, maybe, though barely noticeable. He extended his hand. I looked at Marcus for permission, a habit trained into me through months of punishment for independent actions. He nodded tightly, and I placed my hand in Salvatore's. Instead of shaking it, he raised it to his lips, his eyes never leaving mine. The kiss was barely a brush of contact, but it sent electricity shooting up my arm. "I've heard so much about you. Good things, I hope," I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "Interesting things." Marcus's arm tightened around me painfully. "Sarah was just about to get us drinks. Weren't you, darling?" "Of course." I extracted myself from his grip, grateful for the excuse to escape the suffocating tension. "What can I get everyone?" Orders were placed. Whiskey, neat for most, vodka for Petrov, and nothing from Salvatore, who simply watched me with those dark eyes that seemed to see everything. My hands trembled as I prepared the drinks at the bar, hyper-aware of the conversation behind me. "The shipment comes in Tuesday," Vincent was saying. "Customs has been handled." "Good," Marcus replied. "My father's campaign announcement is next month. We need everything running smoothly before then. And if there are complications," this from Salvatore, his voice cutting through the discussion like a blade. "There won't be," Marcus said quickly. Too quickly. I turned with the drink tray, and our eyes met again, Salvatore's and mine. For a moment, something passed between us, something I couldn't name but felt in my bones. He looked at me like he knew all my secrets, like he could see the bruises hidden beneath designer clothes, the desperation beneath my perfect makeup. Then the tray slipped from my hands. It happened in slow motion, the crystal tumblers sliding, the amber liquid arcing through the air. The devastating crash as everything shattered on the marble floor. Whiskey splashed across Italian leather shoes. Glass scattered like diamonds in the light. "You stupid—" Marcus started, his face flushing red as he stepped toward me. But Salvatore moved faster, stepping between us with casual grace that belied the sudden tension in his shoulders. "It's fine," he said quietly, though his voice carried enough authority to stop Marcus mid-step. "Accidents happen. She's always been clumsy," Marcus said, his laugh forced and brittle. "I apologize, Mr. Salvatore. Sarah, clean this up." I dropped to my knees, reaching for the glass shards with shaking hands. Blood welled on my palm as a piece sliced through skin, and I gasped. "Stop." Salvatore's command froze everyone in the room. He crouched beside me, pulling a black handkerchief from his pocket. "You're hurt." "It's nothing," I whispered. But he was already wrapping the silk around my palm with surprising gentleness. "Marco," he said, not looking at Marcus, but somehow making the name sound like an insult. "Perhaps you should take better care of your possessions." Marcus's jaw clenched. "She's my fiancée, not my—" "I know exactly what she is to you." Salvatore helped me to my feet, his hand warm and steady on my elbow. His next words were spoken in that same calm tone, but they carried a threat that made the air in the room go cold. "And I know about Tuesday's shipment, the real one, the one your father doesn't know about." The color drained from Marcus's face. Vincent and the others shifted nervously, hands moving subtly toward concealed weapons. Salvatore smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Relax, gentlemen. We're all friends here, aren't we, Marco?" "Of course," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "Friends." "Good." Salvatore's hand was still on my elbow, his touch gentle but possessive in a way that was completely different from Marcus's controlling grip. "Then you won't mind if I borrow your lovely fiancée for a moment? She needs medical attention." He didn't wait for permission, guiding me toward the bathroom with a hand on the small of my back. I felt Marcus's eyes burning into us, felt the rage radiating off him in waves. But he said nothing, couldn't say anything, because whatever power Marcus thought he had in this room, it was nothing compared to the man beside me. The bathroom door closed behind us, and suddenly we were alone, the sounds of the meeting muffled by thick walls. Salvatore turned on the faucet, testing the water temperature before guiding my hand under the stream. "It's not deep," he said, examining the cut with surprising expertise. "But it needs to be cleaned properly. Who are you?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. He looked up, those dark eyes holding mine. "Someone who's been watching Marcus Whitmore for a very long time." His thumb brushed over my wrist, right where Marcus had grabbed me earlier, where the bruises were starting to form. "Someone who knows he doesn't deserve you." My heart hammered against my ribs. "You don't know anything about—" "I know he locks you in that bedroom," he said quietly, opening the medicine cabinet and pulling out supplies with the familiarity of someone who'd been here before. "I know about the attempted escape 3 days ago. I know about your sister in Portland, and how he's using her to control you." Terror shot through me. "If you hurt Emma, I don't hurt innocent women, Kara." The endearment rolled off his tongue like silk. "That's the difference between men like Marcus and men like me. You're all the same," I said, trying to pull my hand away. But his grip, while gentle, was unbreakable. "Criminals in expensive suits, thinking you own everything, everyone. You're right." He wrapped a bandage around my palm with practiced efficiency. "I am a criminal, but I've never laid a hand on a woman in anger. I've never locked someone I claim to love in a room, and I've never had to threaten someone's family to make them stay." "Then what do you want?" He was quiet for a moment, his fingers still wrapped around my injured hand. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Did you know your father worked for me once?" The words hit me like ice water. "That's impossible. My father was an accountant who handled my books for 3 years, until Marcus's father had him killed and made it look like a car accident." The bathroom walls seemed to close in around me as Salvatore's words echoed in my mind. My legs gave out, and I would have collapsed if he hadn't caught me. His arm strong and steady as he lowered me to sit on the edge of the marble bathtub. "You're lying," I whispered. But even as I said it, memories started clicking into place. My father's late nights, the mysterious phone calls he'd take in his study, the way he'd started drinking heavily in the months before the accident that had taken both my parents on a rainy night on a perfectly maintained highway. "Your father was a good man," Salvatore said, crouching in front of me so we were eye level. He discovered that Senator Whitmore was embezzling campaign funds, laundering them through offshore accounts. He came to me for protection because he knew going to the authorities meant death. The senator has judges, prosecutors, police commissioners in his pocket. "But you're a criminal too," I said, my voice shaking. "Why would my father trust you?" "Because unlike the senator, I have a code. Your father kept my books clean, and in return I was supposed to keep him safe." His jaw clenched, a muscle ticking beneath the skin. I failed. By the time I learned about the hit, it was too late. Your parents were already dead, and you and your sister were at the mercy of the system. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to stop the tears. Marcus said he fell in love with me at first sight. Said it was fate that I was working that charity gala. "Nothing about Marcus Whitmore is left to fate," Salvatore said darkly. "He knew who you were, the daughter of the man who could have destroyed his father's political career. What better way to ensure your silence than to keep you close, to make you family?" The truth of it hit me like a physical blow. Every moment of our relationship had been a lie. Every kiss, every promise, every word of love had been calculated manipulation. I'd been grieving my parents when Marcus had swooped in like a savior, offering comfort and security and a love that seemed too good to be true. Because it was. "I'm going to be sick," I gasped, and Salvatore quickly guided me to the toilet, holding my hair back as I emptied my stomach. When I was done, he handed me a cool washcloth and a glass of water, his movements efficient but gentle. "We need to go back," he said after a moment. "Marcus will get suspicious if we're gone too long." "I can't," I said, my voice raw. "I can't go back out there and pretend." "Yes, you can." His hands cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "You're stronger than you know, Kara. You've survived 2 years with that monster. You can survive one more night, and then what? Tomorrow I marry him. Tomorrow I become Mrs. Whitmore and disappear forever into that family's web of lies and violence." Something dangerous flashed in Salvatore's eyes. "No, you won't. You don't understand. He has Emma. Your sister is safe." He pulled out his phone, showing me a photo that made my heart stop. Emma sitting in a coffee shop, laughing with a red-haired woman I didn't recognize. The timestamp was from an hour ago. "My people extracted her this afternoon. She's under my protection now. But her boyfriend was one of Marcus's men. Yes, he's been dealt with." At my alarmed look, he added, "He's alive. Just very uncomfortable and very far from Portland." Hope bloomed in my chest for the first time in months, but it was quickly crushed by reality. Marcus will kill me if I try to leave. Or worse, he'll make me wish he had. He won't get the chance. Salvatore stood, helping me to my feet. "But we need to play this carefully. Go back out there, act normal. In exactly 1 hour, excuse yourself to get more ice from the kitchen. The back door will be unlocked. My men will be waiting." "Why?" I searched his face, looking for the catch. "Why would you help me? What do you want in return?" He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then his hand rose to touch my cheek, the gesture so gentle it made my heart ache. "Your father asked me to protect you if anything happened to him. I failed once. I won't fail again. That's not the only reason," I said, seeing something deeper in those dark eyes. "No," he admitted. "It's not." His thumb traced my cheekbone, and I found myself leaning into the touch. "I've been watching you for 6 months, trying to find a way to get you out without starting a war. Every time I saw him hurt you, every time I saw you smile when you were dying inside, every time I watched you try to escape only to be dragged back." His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I wanted to tear him apart with my bare hands. "You don't even know me. I know you sing when you think no one's listening. Always the same song, the one your mother used to hum while cooking. I know you sneak food to the homeless man on 3rd Street every Tuesday when you're supposedly at Pilates. I know you read poetry in the park when Marcus thinks you're shopping, and that Emily Dickinson is your favorite. I know you're brave enough to plan 3 escape attempts despite the consequences, and strong enough to survive when they failed. My breath caught. You've been watching me that closely? I've been protecting you. Marcus isn't the only one who wants to use you, Kara. Your father had information that died with him, but there are people who think you might know something. I've prevented 2 kidnapping attempts in the last month alone. I don't know anything about my father's work. I know, but they don't. He stepped back, his hand dropping from my face, and I immediately missed the warmth. 1 hour. Can you do that? I nodded, not trusting my voice. We left the bathroom together, Salvatore's hand on my back guiding me back to the living room, where the men were deep in discussion about shipment routes and payment structures. Marcus's eyes immediately locked on us, suspicion and rage warring in his expression. Everything all right? He asked, his tone deceptively mild. Perfect, Salvatore responded smoothly. Your fiancée is tougher than she looks. The cut wasn't deep. I resumed my position by Marcus's side, letting him pull me against him in that possessive way he had. His fingers dug into my hip, a silent warning that I'd pay for this later. But for once, I didn't care. In 1 hour, I'd be free. Emma was safe. We had a chance. The meeting continued, discussions of territories and protection rates washing over me. I served drinks, smiled when expected, and watched the clock on the mantel. Salvatore had returned to his position by the window, seemingly disinterested in the proceedings. But I could feel his awareness of me, could sense his tension every time Marcus touched me. 45 minutes. Vincent Romano was explaining something about dock workers when Marcus's phone rang. He frowned at the screen, then answered. The color drained from his face as he listened. What do you mean she's gone? He snarled into the phone, and my blood turned to ice. How the fuck does someone just disappear from... He stopped, his eyes snapping to me, then to Salvatore. I see. Yes, handle it. He hung up, his grip on me tightening to the point of pain. It seems your sister has decided to take an unexpected trip, darling. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Don't you? He yanked me closer, his breath hot against my ear. Funny how she disappears right when Mr. Salvatore shows up, almost like someone warned her. That's a serious accusation, Marco, Salvatore said, not moving from the window but somehow filling the room with menace. One might think you're suggesting I interfered with your personal affairs. Did you? Marcus challenged, his political training warring with his rage. Salvatore turned slowly, a cold smile playing at his lips. If I wanted to interfere with your affairs, you'd know it. Your fiancé's sister probably just got smart. Girls tend to do that when their boyfriends show their true colors. The room went silent, tension crackling like electricity before a storm. Vincent and the others looked between Marcus and Salvatore, clearly trying to decide which side to take if this turned violent. Besides, Salvatore continued, pulling out his phone and checking something. I've been here for the past 2 hours, as have my men. We couldn't have had anything to do with the disappearance in Portland. He showed his phone screen to Vincent. GPS tracking. All of my people are accounted for. It was a lie, of course. I didn't know how he'd done it, but Salvatore had somehow managed to extract Emma while maintaining perfect alibis. The man was more dangerous than I'd imagined. But right now, that danger was protecting me. Marcus's phone rang again. This time, his face went from pale to furious as he listened. The entire account? That's impossible. Only I have access to... His eyes widened, and he looked at me with such rage that I stepped back instinctively. Something wrong? Salvatore asked innocently. Someone's emptied my Cayman Islands account. $20 million gone. Marcus released me, pacing to the bar and pouring himself a whiskey with shaking hands. Someone who had access to my passwords. How terrible, Salvatore said dryly. Identity theft is such a problem these days. I had no idea what was happening, but I could feel the shift in the room's power dynamic. Marcus was unraveling, his perfect control shattering piece by piece. The other men were backing away, creating distance between themselves and what was clearly becoming a dangerous situation. You did this, Marcus accused, pointing at Salvatore. You're trying to destroy me before the wedding. The wedding, Salvatore mused, checking his watch. A Patek Philippe that probably cost more than most people's houses. Yes, about that. I should mention that I've recently acquired some interesting documents. Marriage certificates, dated 2 years ago. Seems Sarah Chen married someone else in Vegas. Someone named, he pretended to think, Dante Salvatore, my younger brother, unfortunately deceased last year. Which makes her my sister-in-law. Family, you could say. My mouth fell open. That's not possible. I've never been to Vegas, haven't you? Salvatore pulled out a folder from inside his jacket, tossing it on the coffee table. Funny how official documents say otherwise. And before you claim forgery, Marco, you should know that I've had 3 independent experts verify their authenticity. Seems Sarah had a wild weekend she doesn't remember. Roofied, the toxicology report suggests. Terrible what people do to innocent women in bars these days. Marcus grabbed the documents, his hands shaking as he read. This is bullshit. Even if it were real, Dante's dead. The marriage would be dissolved. Actually, no, Salvatore said pleasantly. See, in Dante's will, properly notarized and filed, of course, he left everything to his beloved wife, Sarah, including his position in the family business and, more importantly, my obligation to protect her. You've been keeping my sister-in-law prisoner, Marco. Hurting her, threatening her. That's not something I can overlook. The pieces clicked into place. Salvatore had created an elaborate fiction, a paper trail so perfect that even legal scrutiny wouldn't break it. He'd made me untouchable by making me family. You can't do this, Marcus snarled, but fear had crept into his voice. My father. Your father is going to be too busy dealing with the FBI to worry about your romantic troubles, Salvatore said. Did you know that someone sent them a very detailed package about his money laundering operation, complete with account numbers, transaction records, even recordings of him discussing bribes with Judge Patterson? Fascinating stuff. As if on cue, Marcus's phone rang again. He answered, his face growing paler with each word he heard. Through the phone, I could hear shouting, panic, someone yelling about federal agents and warrants. You've destroyed everything, Marcus said, his voice hollow. No, Salvatore corrected. You destroyed everything the moment you laid hands on her. He moved across the room with that predatory grace, stopping directly in front of Marcus. Though he spoke quietly, everyone heard him. You have 2 choices. Sign the papers my lawyer has prepared, releasing Sarah from any obligation to you, returning her belongings, and paying her $5 million for her suffering. Or resist, and I'll destroy not just your father, but your entire bloodline. I'll take apart your world piece by piece until you're begging on the streets for spare change. You're threatening me in front of witnesses, Marcus said desperately. Vincent Romano laughed, a harsh sound. What witnesses? I didn't hear any threats. Did you boys? The others shook their heads, some smirking. Marcus had thought these were his allies, but they were already shifting allegiance to the stronger predator in the room. The papers, Marco, Salvatore said softly. Sign them. A knock at the door interrupted the standoff. Janet entered, her usually composed face shocked. Mr. Whitmore, there are federal agents downstairs. They have a warrant for your arrest. My arrest? Marcus's voice cracked. For what? Kidnapping, false imprisonment, assault, Salvatore listed casually. Sarah's medical records from her accidents make for interesting reading. Dr. Morrison was very thorough in his documentation, even if you thought you'd paid him enough to keep quiet. The federal agents flooded the penthouse like a tide of justice I'd stopped believing in. Marcus stood frozen as they read him his rights, his perfect world crumbling around him, but his eyes never left mine, and the promise in them made my skin crawl. This wasn't over. Sarah Chen, one of the agents, a woman with sharp eyes and graying hair, approached me. I'm Agent Patricia Morse. We need you to come with us. You're not under arrest, but we need your statement, and we need to ensure your safety. She's coming with me, Salvatore said smoothly, producing credentials that made Agent Morse's eyebrows rise. Mr. Salvatore, I should have known you'd be involved in this. She studied him with a mixture of respect and wariness. The Bureau appreciates the information you provided, but Ms. Chen is family, he interrupted. And she's been through enough. I have a medical team waiting to examine her injuries, and my lawyers will ensure she provides whatever statement you need, tomorrow." They stared at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, Agent Morse nodded. "Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Our offices." She turned to me, her expression softening. "Ms. Chen, you're safe now. We have enough evidence to ensure Mr. Whitmore won't be able to hurt you again." As they dragged Marcus toward the door, he managed to break free for a moment, lunging toward me. "You lying bitch! You planned this!" Salvatore moved faster than I'd ever seen anyone move, his fist connecting with Marcus's jaw with a sickening crack. Marcus crumpled, blood streaming from his nose, and the agents quickly restrained him. "That was assault," Agent Morse said mildly. "I didn't see anything," Salvatore replied, pulling out a handkerchief to wipe his knuckles. "Did you see anything, Agent Morse?" She sighed. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Don't be late." The penthouse emptied quickly after that, the other crime bosses disappearing like smoke, not wanting to be caught in the federal net. Soon it was just Salvatore and me, standing in the ruins of what had been my prison for 2 years. "We should go," he said gently. "This place is a crime scene now. My things will be collected and returned to you." He draped his jacket over my shoulders, the warmth and scent of it, cedar and leather and something distinctly male, making me feel safer than I had in years. "Come, Kara. It's time to leave this place behind." His car was waiting outside, a black Bentley that purred to life as we approached. A driver held the door open, and I slid into leather seats softer than clouds. Salvatore joined me, maintaining a respectful distance even as every fiber of my being wanted to collapse against him and sob. "Where are we going?" I asked as the city lights blurred past. "My home. It's secure, and Emma is already there waiting for you." "Emma's at your house?" I straightened, equal parts relieved and alarmed. "She's safe, I promise. My housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, no relation, despite the name, has been fussing over her for the past 3 hours. Last I checked, they were baking cookies, and your sister was threatening to reorganize my entire kitchen." A laugh bubbled up, unexpected and slightly hysterical. "That sounds like Emma." We drove in silence for a while, leaving the glittering downtown behind for quieter streets lined with trees. Eventually, we passed through a set of gates that opened automatically, revealing a mansion that took my breath away. It wasn't the ostentatious display of wealth that Marcus's family favored, but something older, more elegant. Stone and ivy, windows warm with light, gardens that looked wild but were clearly meticulously maintained. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "It was my mother's favorite of all our properties," he said softly. She said it felt like a real home, not just a house. The front door opened before we reached it, and Emma came flying out, nearly knocking me over with the force of her hug. "Sarah! Oh my God, Sarah, I was so scared." "I'm okay," I said, holding her tight, breathing in her familiar vanilla perfume. "We're okay now." We clung to each other, crying and laughing, while Salvatore stood quietly nearby, giving us our moment. Finally, Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Mr. Salvatore told me everything," she said. "About Mom and Dad, about Marcus, about—" Her voice broke. "I'm so sorry I didn't see it. I should have known something was wrong. He was very good at hiding it," I said, touching the bruise on my hip that was already turning purple. "And at making sure we never had time alone for me to tell you." "Come inside," Salvatore said. "The doctor is waiting to examine you, Sarah." The interior of the house was even more beautiful than the exterior, all warm wood and soft lighting, filled with art that looked museum-worthy, but somehow made the space feel lived in rather than sterile. Mrs. Chen, a plump woman in her 60s, immediately took charge, clucking over my bandaged hand and thin frame. "Too skinny," she declared. "Mr. Salvatore, why did you not tell me she needed feeding? I would have prepared more food." "I've only just rescued her, Mrs. Chen," he said with fond exasperation. "Perhaps you could start now?" The doctor, a kind woman named Dr. Reyes, examined me thoroughly, documenting every bruise, every scar, every place Marcus had left his mark on my body. Salvatore stayed outside during the examination, but I could see his shadow pacing beneath the door, could feel his rage radiating through the walls as Dr. Reyes cataloged 2 years of abuse. "You have 3 cracked ribs that healed improperly," she said gently. "Nerve damage in your left wrist from repeated trauma. Malnutrition despite your seemingly healthy weight. And signs of severe psychological trauma that I strongly recommend you address with a therapist." "Will she be okay?" Emma asked, holding my hand. "Physically, yes. With proper care and nutrition, most of the damage can be reversed. Emotionally..." Dr. Reyes looked at me with kind eyes. "That will take time. But you're safe now, and that's the first step." After she left, Mrs. Chen insisted on feeding us, producing a feast that seemed to appear from nowhere. Soup and bread and pasta and salads. More food than I'd seen in months. Marcus had controlled every bite I took, counting calories obsessively, punishing me if I gained even a pound. "Eat," Salvatore commanded when I hesitated. "You need your strength." Old habits died hard. "I'm not supposed to..." "Marcus is gone," he said firmly. "His rules no longer apply. Eat, Kara. Please." I took a bite of the soup, and the flavors exploded on my tongue. I hadn't realized how hungry I was, how long it had been since I'd eaten for pleasure rather than survival. Before I knew it, I'd cleaned my bowl and was reaching for bread, my body overriding years of conditioning. Emma filled the silence with chatter about her rescue, how Salvatore's men had appeared at her work, explained the situation, and whisked her away before Marcus's spy could react. She seemed remarkably calm about the whole thing, but I could see the strain around her eyes, the way her hands shook slightly when she thought no one was looking. "You should rest," Salvatore said finally. "I've prepared rooms for both of you. Tomorrow will be a long day with the FBI." "Wait," I said as he turned to go. "The marriage documents. Vegas. That was all fake, right?" He paused at the doorway. "The documents are real, legally binding and properly filed." "But I never married your brother." "No," he agreed. "Dante died 3 years ago in Afghanistan. He was a Marine, not a criminal. But he would have been honored to protect you, even in death." "So I'm really legally married to a dead man? It can be annulled easily enough once Marcus is convicted and you're safe." He turned back to face me, and something in his expression made my heart race. Unless what? "Unless you prefer to remain under the family's protection." His dark eyes held mine. "As Dante's widow, you're entitled to his inheritance. $15 million, a house in Tuscany, and various investments. More importantly, you'd have the Salvatore name protecting you. No one would dare touch you." Emma gasped. $15 million? "I can't take money from your dead brother," I protested. "It's not mine to give or refuse," Salvatore said simply. "It's yours by law. I'm simply the executor of his estate." He moved closer, his presence filling the room. "Think about it, Kara. You could start over anywhere, do anything, be anyone." "Why?" I searched his face. "Why would you do this for me?" He was quiet for a long moment, then reached out to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. "Your father saved my life once. Did he ever tell you about the numbers that didn't add up in the Conway account?" I shook my head. "He found evidence that my own uncle was planning to kill me and take over the family business. Your father could have stayed quiet, could have let it happen and been free of his obligation to us. Instead, he warned me. Because of him, I'm alive. Because of me, he's dead." His hand cupped my cheek. "I owe you a debt that can never be repaid." "You don't owe me anything," I whispered. "Don't I?" His thumb traced my cheekbone, the touch sending shivers down my spine. "Every night for 6 months, I've watched you suffer, unable to intervene without starting a war that would have gotten you killed in the crossfire. Do you know what that did to me, watching him hurt you, watching you fade a little more each day?" "You don't even know me," I said again. But the words felt hollow now. "I know you used to dance when you were young, before your parents died. Ballet, specifically. You were good enough for Juilliard, but you gave it up to take care of Emma. I know you write poetry in a journal you hide behind the heating vent in your bedroom, the one Marcus never found. I know you're allergic to strawberries but love strawberry ice cream anyway. I know you donate to the animal shelter every month, even when Marcus limited your access to money. I know 1,000 small things that make you who you are, Sarah Chen, and every single one of them has made me—" He stopped abruptly, stepping back. "Made you what?" I pressed. "Made me dangerous," he said quietly. "Because I would burn the world to keep you safe. I would destroy anyone who tried to hurt you. And that's not something you need in your life right now. You need healing, peace, freedom to discover who you are without Marcus's shadow looming over you. What if I don't want peace?" The words surprised me as much as him. "What if I want to feel alive again? What if I want to stop being afraid all the time?" "Sarah," Emma said warningly, but I ignored her. I stood, closing the distance between us. "You saved me tonight. You gave me back my life. The least I can do is thank you properly." I rose on my toes and pressed my lips to his. For a moment he stood frozen, then his arms came around me, crushing me against him as he deepened the kiss. It was nothing like Marcus's possessive claiming. This was fire and desperation and promise all rolled into one. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "You don't owe me anything," he said roughly. "Especially not that." "I know," I said. "That wasn't about owing. That was about wanting." He stared at me, those dark eyes full of a hunger that should have frightened me, but instead made me feel powerful, desired, alive. "You should rest," he said finally, though his hands didn't release me. "Tomorrow." The window behind us exploded in a shower of glass. Salvatore moved instantly, throwing me to the ground and covering my body with his as bullets sprayed the room. Emma screamed, and I heard Mrs. Chen shouting in Mandarin from the kitchen. "Stay down," Salvatore commanded, pulling a gun from somewhere and returning fire. The shots were deafening in the enclosed space. More glass shattered. Men in black tactical gear rappelled through the windows, and suddenly the beautiful living room became a war zone. Salvatore fought like a demon, but there were too many of them. "Dante sends his regards," one of the attackers said, and Salvatore froze. "That's impossible. Dante is dead." The man laughed, pulling off his mask to reveal a face that was heartbreakingly familiar from the photos I'd seen. The same dark eyes, the same sharp features but younger, crueler. "Hello, brother," Dante Salvatore said. "Did you really think a grave in Arlington would hold me?" Salvatore's gun never wavered, but I felt his body tense above me, shock radiating through every muscle. "You died in Afghanistan. I identified your body. I buried you." "You buried someone," Dante agreed, signaling his men to spread out, surrounding us. "But not me. Amazing what the CIA can arrange when they need someone with my particular skills to disappear." "CIA?" Salvatore laughed bitterly. "You were a Marine. A hero." "I was bored," Dante corrected. "Playing soldier, pretending to be noble. Then Langley made me a better offer. New identity, unlimited resources, and the chance to dismantle criminal organizations from the inside. Starting with yours, brother." Emma whimpered from behind the overturned couch where she'd taken shelter. One of Dante's men dragged her out, and I tried to go to her, but Salvatore held me down. "Let her go," Salvatore said coldly. "She has nothing to do with this. Actually, she has everything to do with this." Dante walked closer, his boots crunching on broken glass. "See? When I learned you'd created those fake marriage documents using my identity, I was intrigued. Then I discovered who Sarah Chen really was, the daughter of Thomas Chen, the accountant who had evidence that could have brought down the entire East Coast syndicate, evidence that was never found after his unfortunate accident." My blood turned to ice. "I don't know anything about my father's work." "Maybe not consciously," Dante said, crouching in front of us. He was younger than Salvatore, maybe 28, with the same devastating features, but none of the controlled elegance. He was raw violence barely contained in human form. "But the FBI's psychologists think you might have suppressed memories. Trauma does that sometimes. And with the right encouragement, those memories can surface." "You're working with the FBI?" Salvatore's voice was deadly quiet. "They were just here. Agent Morse is clean. She has no idea I exist. But there are others, shadows within shadows, who understand that sometimes you need a monster to catch monsters. Dante's smile was cruel. And you, brother, have become quite the monster. The Salvatore Empire stretches from here to Moscow. The government wants it dismantled, and they want the information Thomas Chen died for. So you faked your death? Let me mourn you for 3 years just to become their weapon? The pain in Salvatore's voice made my heart ache. You mourned me? Dante laughed. You threw yourself into the business. Expanded. Conquered. You became everything our father wanted. A king in the shadows. Where was the mourning in that? Every territory I took was in your name, Salvatore said quietly. Every victory, every expansion. It was all to honor your memory, to make sure your sacrifice meant something. For a moment, something flickered in Dante's eyes. Regret, maybe, or longing for what they'd once been. Then it was gone, replaced by cold purpose, touching, but irrelevant. He stood, gesturing to his men. Take the women. Kill my brother. No! I struggled against Salvatore's protective hold. Please, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. Sarah, don't, Salvatore warned. I remember things, I lied desperately. About my father's work, account numbers, names, but only if you let them go, both of them. Dante studied me with those familiar yet strange dark eyes. Interesting. But I think you'll tell me everything anyway, given the right motivation. He nodded to one of his men, who pressed a gun to Emma's temple. My sister's eyes were wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. Stop, I screamed. I'll come with you, willingly. Just don't hurt them. Sarah, no. Salvatore's arms tightened around me. I won't let you. The gun pressed against his head cut him off. You won't let her? Dante mocked. You've known her for what? 6 hours? And you're ready to die for her? How pathetically romantic. Just like you were with that prosecutor's daughter. What was her name? Lucia? Salvatore went rigid. Oh, you didn't think I knew about her? Dante's smile was vicious. I know everything, brother. I know you loved her. I know Marcus's father had her killed when she got too close to the truth about his operation. I know you've been hunting him ever since, using Sarah as bait to finally get your revenge. Tell me, were you planning to seduce her too, or just use her until Marcus was destroyed? The words hit me like physical blows. I looked up at Salvatore, searching his face. Is that true? Was this all just about revenge? No, he said fiercely, turning my face to his despite the gun at his head. It started as revenge, yes. But the moment I saw you, everything changed. You have to believe me. How touching, Dante interrupted. But we're on a schedule. He checked his watch. The same model Salvatore wore, I noticed with a strange pang. In 10 minutes, this house will be swarming with federal agents, the real ones, not Morse's Boy Scouts. We need to be gone. Sir, one of his men said urgently. Movement in the woods. Someone's coming. Dante cursed. Who else did you call, brother? No one, Salvatore said, but his eyes flickered with something. Hope, maybe. The lights went out. The darkness was absolute, suffocating. Emma screamed. Glass shattered somewhere upstairs. Then the shooting started. Not the controlled bursts from before, but chaos, automatic weapons firing from multiple directions. Salvatore rolled us behind the heavy oak bar, his body shielding mine as bullets chewed through furniture and walls. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in hellish red. Through the strobing muzzle flashes I saw them, men in different tactical gear, moving with lethal precision through the house. They weren't Dante's people, and they weren't FBI. They were something else, something deadlier. Bratva, Salvatore breathed. The Russians. What do they want? I gasped. The same thing everyone wants, your father's information. Someone must have leaked that you were here. A man appeared above us, gun raised, and Salvatore moved faster than thought, disarming him and snapping his neck in one fluid motion. He took the man's weapon, checked the magazine, and pulled me closer. When I tell you to run, you go straight to the garage, 3rd car from the left, keys are in the ignition. Drive to the address I'm about to give you and wait for me. I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. He pressed something into my hand, a flash drive on a chain. This contains everything, your father's real files, evidence against Marcus's family, The whole network. If something happens to me, upload it to the FBI database. The access codes are on there. Salvatore. My name is Alessandro, he said softly, cupping my face. I wanted you to know my real name. Before I could respond, he was moving, drawing fire away from me. I saw Dante and his men fighting the Russians, temporary allies against a common enemy. Bodies fell like dominoes. Blood painted the walls. I spotted Emma huddled behind a pillar, forgotten in the chaos. I ran to her, staying low, grabbing her hand. We have to go, I shouted over the gunfire. We made it 3 steps before someone grabbed Emma from behind. She screamed as she was yanked backward, and I turned to see one of the Russians holding her, using her as a human shield as he backed toward the door. The Chen girl, he said, in heavily accented English. She comes with us, or the sister dies. Let her go. I stepped forward, but froze when he pressed the gun harder against Emma's head. Sarah, don't. Emma sobbed. Run. The man's head exploded in a spray of blood and bone. Emma fell forward, and I caught her, both of us covered in gore. Behind the body stood Alessandro, smoking gun in hand, looking like an avenging angel drenched in blood. Go, he commanded. Now. This time I obeyed, dragging Emma toward the garage. Behind us, the firefight intensified. I heard Dante shouting orders, Alessandro returning fire, the Russians cursing in their native tongue. The garage was blessedly quiet. I found the car, a modified BMW with reinforced panels and bulletproof glass. The engine purred to life, and I gunned it through the door, wood splintering around us as we burst into the night. Where are we going? Emma asked, her voice shaky. I recited the address Alessandro had given me, my hand steady on the wheel despite everything. It was a skill Marcus had unknowingly given me, the ability to function through trauma, to push through when everything was falling apart. The safe house was an apartment building in a quiet neighborhood, unremarkable except for the multiple security cameras and reinforced door. The key code Alessandro had given me worked, and we stumbled into a spacious loft that looked more like a luxury hotel than a hideout. Sarah. Emma grabbed my arm. We need to call the police. No, I said firmly. We wait. Alessandro said to wait. Alessandro? You mean Salvatore? The Mafia boss who got us into this mess? He saved us, I protested. He used you. You heard his brother. This was all about revenge for some other woman. We're just pawns in their sick game. She was right. I knew she was right. But I couldn't shake the memory of his hands on my face, the desperate truth in his eyes when he said everything changed when he met me. Hours passed. Emma eventually fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from terror and adrenaline. I sat by the window, watching the street, the flash drive heavy in my pocket. Dawn was breaking when I heard footsteps in the hallway. The door opened, and Alessandro stumbled in, covered in blood, most of it not his own. His shirt was torn, revealing Kevlar beneath, and a gash ran from his temple to his jaw. You're alive, I breathed, running to him. He caught me before I could throw myself at him, holding me at arm's length. Don't. I don't care. I pushed past his resistance, wrapping my arms around him. After a moment, he surrendered, pulling me against him with desperate strength. Dante? I asked against his chest. Gone. Back to whatever shadow agency he serves. But he'll be back. This isn't over. The Russians? Dead or retreated. They won't try again soon. They lost too many men. He pulled back to look at me, his hand touching my face as if to assure himself I was real. You're safe. That's all that matters. Am I? I searched his face. Was Dante telling the truth? About Lucia? About using me for revenge? He was quiet for a long moment. Lucia was everything to me. Young love, pure and passionate and doomed. When she died, something in me died too. For 5 years I've lived for one purpose, to destroy the man who killed her. Marcus's father. My heart cracked. So I was just... No, he said fiercely. You were supposed to be just a means to an end, a way to get close to Marcus, to find evidence against his father. But then I saw you in that restaurant, singing while you cleaned tables after closing, thinking you were alone. You were singing Lucia's favorite song. But you made it yours. Made it something new. And I realized I'd been dead for 5 years until that moment. That's not possible. You can't fall in love with someone just from watching. Can't you? He traced my jaw with his thumb. Then why did you kiss me tonight? Why are you here, waiting for me, instead of running as far as you can? Because I'm an idiot, I whispered. No, because you feel it too. This connection. Like we've been moving toward each other our whole lives, through all the pain and loss and darkness. Alessandro. He kissed me, cutting off whatever protest I was about to make. This kiss was different from the first. Slower, deeper, full of promise and possession. When we broke apart, I was breathless and aching. The FBI will want to talk to you today, he said. Tell them everything about Marcus, but nothing about tonight. Not Dante, not the Russians, nothing. As far as they know, you've been here since we left the penthouse. You want me to lie to federal agents? I want you to survive. His hands framed my face. There are forces at play here bigger than just Marcus and his father. My brother is right about one thing. Your father's information could bring down the entire East Coast syndicate. Every family would kill to either get it or destroy it. The only way to keep you safe is to make everyone believe you know nothing. But I don't know anything, I protested. The flash drive I gave you suggests otherwise. He smiled grimly. Your father was brilliant. He hid the information in places no one would think to look, including in a trust fund he set up in your name, accessible only with your biometric data and a code word. What code word? That's what we need to figure out, but not today. Today, you're just a traumatized victim of domestic abuse who knows nothing about her father's work. He moved to the window, checking the street. My men are outside. They'll take you to the FBI offices. Wait while you give your statement and bring you back here. Where will you be? Hunting. His expression darkened. The Russians didn't find this place by accident. Someone betrayed us. Someone close to me. Be careful, I said, hating how inadequate the words were. He turned back, pulling me into another kiss, this one almost savage in its intensity. I'll come back to you, he promised. I'll always come back to you. The FBI offices smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. Agent Morse sat across from me, her shrewd eyes taking in every detail of my appearance. The designer clothes Alessandro's men had brought me, the bruises that makeup couldn't quite hide, the way my hands trembled slightly when I reached for the water glass. Ms. Chen, she said, sliding a folder across the table. These are photographs from Marcus Whitmore's penthouse. Security footage from the past 2 years. I need you to understand that you're not in trouble, but we need your complete cooperation to ensure he never hurts anyone again. The images were damning. Marcus dragging me by my hair, his hand raised to strike, my body crumpled on the floor after one of his rages. I hadn't known there were cameras. Some part of me wondered if Alessandro had installed them, documenting everything for this moment. I'll testify, I said quietly. Whatever you need. Good. She leaned back, studying me. Now, about Mr. Salvatore, he saved my life, I said firmly. That's all I know. Her lips quirked in what might have been a smile. Yes. He does seem to have a habit of that. Did you know he's donated $50 million to domestic violence shelters over the past 5 years? Always anonymously. Always to organizations that helped women escape situations like yours. I didn't know that. There's a lot about Alessandro Salvatore that might surprise you. She closed the folder. We're not going after him, Ms. Chen. Whatever else he is, he's been instrumental in taking down 3 sex trafficking rings and exposing corruption that went all the way to the state legislature. Sometimes the devil you know is better than the chaos that would follow if he fell. Are you saying he's a good man? I'm saying he's a complicated one. And he seems quite taken with you. She stood. Marcus will be held without bail. His father was arrested this morning. The evidence Mr. Salvatore provided was comprehensive. You're free to go. Emma was waiting outside with 2 of Alessandro's men, Vincent, a mountain of a man with surprisingly gentle eyes, and James, who looked like an accountant, but moved like a soldier. They drove us back to the safe house in silence, though I caught them exchanging glances when they thought I wasn't looking. "What?" I finally demanded. "Nothing, ma'am," Vincent said carefully. "It's just, we've never seen the boss like this." "Like what?" "Human," James said quietly. "For 5 years he's been like a machine. Efficient, ruthless, unstoppable. But last night when he thought you were in danger..." He shook his head. "I've known him for 10 years, and I've never seen him afraid until last night." Back at the safe house, Emma confronted me the moment we were alone. "We need to leave, Sarah. Get new identities. Disappear." "I've been researching." "No," I said firmly. "I'm done running." "Sarah, these people are dangerous." So was Marcus, and no one helped us then. I turned to face her. "Alessandro saved us. His men are protecting us. For the first time in 2 years, I feel safe." "You feel safe with a Mafia boss?" "I feel safe with him," I corrected. "And I need to know about Dad, about what really happened. Alessandro has answers." Emma sighed, pulling me into a hug. "I just don't want to lose you, not after everything." "You won't," I promised, though I wasn't sure it was a promise I could keep. That evening, Alessandro returned, looking exhausted but triumphant. "Found the leak," he said without preamble. "One of my lieutenants, bought by the Russians 6 months ago. He's been handled." I didn't ask what handled meant. "Now," he continued, pulling out a laptop, "we need to talk about your father's information." He showed me files, documents, recordings, a massive web of corruption that touched judges, politicians, police commissioners, even federal agents. My father had documented everything, creating an insurance policy that had ultimately gotten him killed. "But where's the rest?" Alessandro asked. "This is only part of it. The most damaging files are still missing." "I don't know," I said helplessly. "Dad never talked about work at home." "Think, Kara. A code word. Something only you would know. He would have made it something meaningful to you." I closed my eyes, thinking about my father. He'd been a quiet man, devoted to his family, always working late, but somehow never missing my dance recitals or Emma's soccer games. What would he have chosen? "Wait," I said suddenly. There was something he used to say. When I was little and scared of the dark, he'd tell me that butterflies could fly through darkness because they carried their own light inside. I looked up at Alessandro. He called me his butterfly, mariposa. He'd used the Spanish word because Mom loved languages. Alessandro typed rapidly. "Mariposa? It's working. Sarah, look at this." The screen filled with new files, deeper and more damaging than before. Not just corruption, but murder conspiracies, human trafficking routes, drug shipments. Enough to bring down not just the East Coast Syndicate, but operations stretching internationally. "This is it," Alessandro breathed. "This is what everyone's been looking for. What do we do with it?" He turned to me, his expression serious. "We have 2 choices. Give it all to the FBI and watch the chaos as hundreds of criminals scramble to save themselves, probably starting a war that would destroy half the city. Or..." He paused. "Or we use it strategically. Take down the worst offenders, negotiate peace with the others, create stability instead of chaos." "You mean use it to consolidate your power?" "Yes," he said simply, "but also to end the violence, to create order, to protect people like your father who get caught in the crossfire." I studied his face, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd saved my life and stolen my heart in the span of 24 hours. "What about Dante? Won't he come for it?" "Let me worry about my brother." His hand found mine. "The question is, what do you want? You could take your inheritance, disappear with Emma, live a normal life, or you could stay, with me, help me build something better from the ashes of what we're about to destroy." "Alessandro." "I know it's too fast," he said quickly. "I know you barely know me, and what you do know should terrify you. But I've waited 5 years to feel alive again, and I can't let you go without fighting for the chance to prove we could have something extraordinary. I'm not Lucia," I said softly. "No," he agreed, pulling me closer. "You're Sarah. You survived 2 years of hell, and came out unbroken. "You're stronger than she ever was, braver than you know, and you make me want to be better than the monster I've become. You're not a monster. I've done monstrous things. I'll probably do more, but with you..." He touched my face with infinite gentleness. "With you, I remember why some things are worth fighting for, worth changing for." Before I could respond, his phone rang. He answered, his expression darkening as he listened. "What is it?" I asked when he hung up. "Dante. He's at the old warehouse on Pier 47. He wants to make a deal." Alessandro stood, checking his weapon. "I have to go." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. He's there because of me, because of my father's information. I'm coming." I stood, matching his stubborn expression with my own. "Besides, you said it yourself. I'm stronger than I know." He stared at me for a long moment, then sighed. "You'll do exactly as I say. No heroics." "No heroics," I agreed. The warehouse was exactly what you'd expect. Abandoned, crumbling, reeking of rust and salt water. Dante waited inside with a small team, his posture relaxed but alert. The brothers faced each other across the empty space, mirror images twisted by different choices. "You came," Dante said, "and you brought her. Brave or stupid, brother?" "Both, probably," Alessandro replied. "You wanted to talk. Talk. The agency wants the Chen files. All of them. In exchange, you get immunity for your entire organization. A clean slate. And if I refuse, then we take them anyway, and you spend the rest of your life in a federal prison." Dante's eyes shifted to me. "Both of you, since Sarah is now technically part of your organization." "You bastard," I breathed. He shrugged. "I'm offering you a way out. Take it." "No," Alessandro said simply. "I have a better offer. You walk away. Report to your handlers that the files were destroyed. In exchange, I don't release the recording I have of you executing 3 federal judges on the agency's orders." Dante went very still. "You're bluffing." Alessandro pulled out his phone, playing a video that made Dante's face go pale. It was grainy but clear enough. Dante, in tactical gear, systematically killing men who were supposedly under federal protection. "Insurance," Alessandro said calmly. "I've been collecting it since you died." "Did you really think I believed the official story? You were my brother. I knew you better than anyone. If you release that, you'll be burned by the agency and hunted by every criminal organization whose people you've killed while pretending to be dead." Alessandro pocketed the phone. "Or you could disappear. Really disappear this time. There's $10 million in an account in the Caymans under the name we used to joke about as kids. Take it and go." For a moment, the warehouse was silent except for the sound of water dripping somewhere in the darkness. The 2 brothers stood frozen, years of love and betrayal and pain stretching between them. "Why?" Dante finally asked, his voice rough. "Why would you let me go?" "Because despite everything, you're still my brother," Alessandro said simply, "and because Sarah's teaching me that sometimes mercy is stronger than revenge." Dante looked at me, something unreadable in his expression. "You love her." It wasn't a question, but Alessandro answered anyway. "Yes. She'll be a target for the rest of her life. Everyone will want what her father knew. Then I'll protect her for the rest of her life." Dante laughed, but it was sad rather than mocking. "You always were a romantic fool." He signaled to his men, who began filing out. At the door, he paused. "The recording, is it real?" "Every second," Alessandro confirmed. "Then you could have destroyed me at any time." "Why didn't you?" "Because I kept hoping my brother would come back. The real one, not this shadow working for shadows." Alessandro's voice broke slightly. "I kept hoping you'd remember who we used to be." Dante was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe someday I will." He looked at me one last time. "Take care of him, Sarah Chen. He's the last good thing in a family of monsters." Then he was gone, disappearing into the night like the ghost he'd become. Alessandro stood rigid, staring at the empty doorway. I went to him, wrapping my arms around him from behind, feeling the tremors running through his body. "You let him go," I said softly. "I lost him 3 years ago," he replied. "Tonight was just acknowledging what I already knew. My brother is dead." The man who just left is someone else wearing his face. We stood there in the darkness, holding each other. Two damaged souls finding comfort in shared pain. Finally, Alessandro turned in my arms, looking down at me with eyes that held universe of emotion. "Marry me," he said suddenly. I blinked. "What?" "Marry me. For real this time, not some fabricated document. Marry me because I love you, because you make me want to be better, because I can't imagine a life without you in it." "Alessandro, we've known each other 2 days, and I've loved you for 6 months," he interrupted. "I've watched you fight and survive and refuse to break. I've seen your kindness to strangers, your loyalty to your sister, your strength in the face of horror. I know the way you take your coffee, the books you read, the songs you sing when you think no one's listening. I know you're allergic to strawberries but eat them anyway, that you donate to animal shelters even when you have nothing, that you write poetry about hope in the middle of hell. I know you, Sarah Chen, and I love every broken, beautiful piece of you. My voice broke. "I don't know how to be a Mafia wife." "Then don't be," he said simply. "Be my wife. Be yourself. Change the organization from the inside if you want. God knows it needs a woman's touch, or ignore it completely and pursue your own dreams. Dance again. Write. Whatever makes you happy. And if I said no, if I wanted to take Emma and disappear?" His hand touched my cheek, infinitely gentle. "Then I'd let you go. I'd make sure you were safe, protected, funded. I'd watch from a distance and be grateful for the 2 days when you made me feel human again." I searched his face, this dangerous, beautiful man who'd saved me, who'd chosen mercy over revenge, who was offering me a life I'd never imagined. "Yes," I whispered. His eyes widened. "Yes? Yes. I'll marry you. Not because you saved me, not because I'm grateful, but because when I'm with you, I feel like myself again. Like the girl who used to dance, who used to dream, who used to believe in love despite all evidence to the contrary." He kissed me then, deep and desperate and full of promise. When we finally broke apart, both of us were crying and laughing. "When?" he asked. "How about next month? Give Emma time to plan something. She's always wanted to be a wedding planner." "Done. Anywhere you want. Anything you want. Just you," I said simply. "Everything else is just details." 6 weeks later, I stood in a garden in Tuscany, wearing my mother's wedding dress that Emma had somehow saved from storage. The ceremony was small. Just Emma, Mrs. Chen, a handful of Alessandro's most trusted men, and surprisingly, Agent Morse, who'd become an unlikely friend. Alessandro waited for me under an arch of jasmine and roses, looking devastating in a charcoal suit. When he saw me, his composure cracked, tears sliding down his cheeks as Emma walked me down the aisle. "You came," he whispered when I reached him. "I'll always come back to you," I promised, echoing his words from that night that now felt like a lifetime ago. The ceremony was simple, the vows traditional with a few personal additions. When Alessandro promised to protect and cherish me, he added, "and to never lock doors between us." When I promised to honor and keep him, I added, "and to remind you every day that you're more than your worst moments." As the sun set over the Tuscan hills, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, we danced to the song my mother used to hum, the one I'd been singing that night when Alessandro first saw me and decided to save me. "What happened to the files?" I asked as we swayed together. "Distributed strategically," he said. "The worst offenders are in prison. The others have agreed to new terms. Less violence, no trafficking, no involvement with drugs near schools. It's not perfect, but it's better." "And Marcus?" 25 to life. His father got the death penalty for the murder of your parents and 17 others. I nodded, feeling a chapter close even as a new one opened. "No regrets?" "Only one," Alessandro said, spinning me gently. "I wish I'd saved you sooner." "You saved me exactly when you were meant to," I corrected, pulling him down for a kiss. Any sooner and I might not have been ready to be saved. Later, as we stood on the terrace watching stars appear in the darkening sky, Emma found us. "Thank you," she said to Alessandro, "for saving her, for saving both of us." "We saved each other," he replied, his arm tightening around me. And it was true. In rescuing me from Marcus, Alessandro had rescued himself from the darkness that had consumed him since Lucia's death. In loving him, I'd found the strength I never knew I had. We were two broken people who'd found a way to be whole together. "What now?" Emma asked. "Now we live," I said simply. "We just live." And we did. There were challenges, of course. Running a criminal empire, even one trying to reform, wasn't simple. There were threats and negotiations and moments of violence that couldn't be avoided. But there was also laughter and love and lazy Sunday mornings when the biggest decision was what to have for breakfast. I started dancing again, teaching classes at a community center Alessandro funded. Emma went to college, finally free to pursue her dreams without looking over her shoulder. Mrs. Chen continued to fuss over all of us, muttering in Mandarin about two skinny girls and dangerous boys who needed proper feeding. And Alessandro? He kept his promises. Every door in our home remained unlocked. He supported my dreams, protected my independence, and loved me with an intensity that should have been suffocating, but instead felt like finally being able to breathe. One night, a year after our wedding, as we lay in bed watching moonlight paint patterns on the ceiling, Alessandro asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't dropped that tray?" "No," I said honestly. "Because everything that happened, all the pain, all the fear, all the chaos, led us here. And here is exactly where I want to be." He pulled me closer, pressing a kiss to my forehead. "Ti amo, mia farfalla." "I love you too," I whispered. "My beautiful monster." "Not a monster anymore," he corrected. "Just a man who loves his wife." And in the darkness of our bedroom, in the safety of his arms, I finally understood what my father had meant about butterflies carrying their own light. Sometimes the darkness isn't something to escape, but something to transform, turning shadows into strength, fear into freedom, and two broken hearts into one complete soul. We'd found our light in each other, and no darkness, past, present, or future, could extinguish it. The end.